Welcome to the Fantasy Football Profit Podcast, hosted by Craig Phillips and Jeff Torrey. Visit us at fantasyfootballprofit.com. And now your hosts, Craig and Jeff.
Welcome everyone to the Fantasy Football Profit Podcast. I'm Craig Phillips, joined as always by Jeff Torrey, and today we're bringing back episode we've done the last couple years, which I always like. It's Polarizing Players. We got a few good names on this one. We'll get into this episode in a minute, but I want to just actually say that I feel like this is like the Sammy Watkins memorial list. He's the one who kind of like started it for me a couple years ago. He was always that guy. Maybe he makes an appearance today, but he was always the guy that for some reason people loved, people hated, and for good reason, I guess, and he never panned out. So again, I'm buying it again this year. So he's polarizing, but I don't know, maybe we'll bring him up. But before we do that, make sure you guys go check us out on Twitter at the FF Profit or Instagram, Fantasy Football Profit, or check out our YouTube page at youtube.com/Fantasy Football Profit. And we talked about this in the end of the last episode, but if you want to get in on our new league idea for this year, it's our relegation league, which is now hopefully the plan is to have this thing go for years. And what are we at? We're going to be at 120 teams signed up already, which is a little crazy, Jeff. 120 teams. I mean, that's a lot of people, and we got more room. Well, I'll just keep them. I'm not even going to put a limit on it. So just keep signing up and play against us. We'll be in every league, but the whole point is you're going to get to start down. We'll have a minors league, a contenders league, and the Champions League. So you want to get up to the Champions League by winning our league. So there's already people that have won the last 2 years that are already populating the Champions League. So you try to move your way up. And if you want to get involved with that, go to our Instagram page. Go check us out there. You'll find out how to sign up and get involved. And yeah, I'm not gonna limit it. And so it's gonna be a lot of leagues. We'll be doing a lot of drafts. With this many, you might have to start in July, almost end of July, to get all these in. But I think it'll be a lot of fun. You can try to beat me, try to beat Jeff. Probably easier to beat Jeff because Jeff's really not winning championships. So we bring up. That's it. No response to that.
Sorry, I was drinking water.
You got a couple people in that league that have beat you for the championship. Myself and James.
Oh yeah, Walsh, last year's winner of our main league.
So he's in that as well. So go check us out on Instagram for that one. It'll be fun, and hey, maybe Jeff can get a win.
I'm all jokes aside, I'm very excited for this one. I've wanted to do a relegation league for the past year or so. It's nice that we're actually getting it going. It's going to be really, really fun because you can't stop, right?
Yeah.
That's the great part about it. You have to play the entire year to make sure that you don't
want to be in the bottom.
Fall out of it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You can't give up. You can't say, yeah, You
can move down to another league. Right now we have 3 tiers. If the signups keep coming in like they have been, I mean, we barely announced it on the podcast, but it's the end of last episode. So not many people heard it. It's mainly been on our Instagram page, but maybe a 4th tier. Might have to open up more. Maybe we'll end up with 200 teams that make this thing quite impressive. I'm up for it.
Yeah, I would love that.
We'll keep going, but all right, let's jump into today's episode. Polarizing players. We'll count them down 5 to 1. This one's not necessarily as much of a list in that sense, but it's easy to do for the show. So we'll start off, Jeff, with your 5th polarizing player of the year.
Polarizing. And for this, there's really a lot of reasons you can put different names on this list. This person particularly, if you go to Fantasy Pros, is a great place for information. But you can go to a lot of different places and get stats about what's going on, even average draft position, things of that nature. So Marvin Jones is actually coming in at number 5, someone that we haven't talked about, really touched on this year so far. But he's always a pretty solid contributor. Last year, he did only play 9 games. He had a bone bruise or whatever. He needed a cleanup procedure that cost him 7 games. I put him on here because he's ranked right in the early 30s as far as wide receivers go. Everyone's assuming that Galladay is taking over the number 1 wide receiver slot. That's a very safe call. But Marvin Jones is able to catch touchdowns. He is able to get a decent amount of yards, and hopefully he'll do even better as the Lions have, the second year in this offense. So I think he's relatively safe. But the reason I put him on here is because I don't think anyone believes in him necessarily. So this is where he is ranked about 31st, and he is getting drafted over double digits past where he should go. And that's why I think that he's a little bit of a polarizing player. No one is really sure what to think about him, even though he should be completely ready to go. And last year, his numbers were good. They were good before he got hurt. So he only played 9 games, but he still got 500 yards receiving with 5 touchdowns and 62 targets. That is really on par for what he was able to do. And just 2 years ago, he was the 5th wide receiver overall. So I don't expect him to get back to that. But the way he plays in that offense, even with the complete regime shift, I think that he's still going to be good. And I find it very interesting that people are shying away and very, very heavily too.
Yeah, I am though too.
I know, but that's why he's polarizing. And so not saying I would take him right there, but the fact that he's ranked in 31st, and you can probably get him in a lot of different drafts at late 40s as far as wide receivers go, that is rounds and rounds different. So the question is, will that fix itself because this is still early in the year, or is that going to keep growing wider? I'm not sure which way it will go.
I feel like there is like no excitement with him. So he could end up being a value. Is it like, I think you're going to get to the Marvin Jones spot in a draft and you're just not going to draft him. But when you think, why? Yeah, why do I feel that way? Why do other people feel that way? He's actually put up good numbers. Golden Tate's not there. I like Kenny Galladay. A lot of people like Kenny Galladay, but I mean, Kenny Galladay hasn't really put it together to be, he hasn't done as well as Marvin Jones has done yet, really. So it's one, I don't know why I overlook him so much, but his ranks are as high as 17th, as low as 62nd.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I thought he's kind of a fun player to bring up because we didn't talk about him because he's not overly exciting, right?
Boring.
right.
But it could be a good value if you get him, if he's going as the 43rd receiver it looked like about.
Yeah, that's currently where he's averaging in the average.
I mean, that's
draft position.
Almost a wide receiver 5 in 10-team leagues. That's a wide receiver 5. 12 teams, it's wide receiver 4. That's a good wide receiver 4 or 5. I like that player. I like that at that position. It's all about value.
Yeah,
it really is.
So, and that's why I wouldn't say the most exciting player, but that's why he came in at number 5 for me, polarizing, because the numbers are all over the board right now.
So I'll go with my number 5, and it's going to be Chris Carson. And this is another guy, like, when you look at what his numbers kind of what were at the end of the year, he should be better. But I guess we're all kind of, he had 1,100 yards, 9 touchdowns, 4.7 yards per carry. That's a really good season. It really is a good season. Over weeks 9 through 17, I put this stat out on our Instagram page the other day. So over weeks 9 through 17, Chris Carson was the 10th best running back in the league. He was better than Aaron Jones. He was better than Phillip Lindsay. He was better than Joe Mixon. He was better than David Johnson. He was better than James Conner. He was better than Dalvin Cook. He was better than all those guys. So why do we rank him so low? I do it too. I'm at fault there. He's in the 20s for me. He's 24th on consensus. He's as high as 12th, as low as 42nd. Is it really just Rashad Penny? Is that why?
Yeah, right? For me, that's a large reason, right?
Because if Rashad Penny's not there, Chris Carson should be so much higher. Maybe Rashad Penny's not going to do anything. We've seen just because he was a first round pick doesn't mean anything anymore. If they can't play, they can't play. There's been plenty of. That's what we always get. Everybody does this every year, is get so in love with these first, second, third round running backs. This year it's David Montgomery and Miles Sanders and those guys. But for every one of those, you're going to get a Bishop Sankey. You're going to get a. How many years did we wait on Sean Green? Remember Sean Green?
Yeah.
So maybe Rashad Penny's not going to do it, and it is Chris Carson's job, and he proved it, and he should be ranked a lot higher than 24th. But some people love him. There's some people that do love this guy a lot, but then there's others. 40 seconds, probably a little excessive. It's a little low, don't you think? But he's kind of he's like Marvin Jones. He's kind of like, you don't think about him. He doesn't excite you very much, but those numbers were actually really good last year. So maybe we should be thinking about it more, but mean, shoot, there's like you can even see other people who. Why he's so polarizing? Okay, look at the fantasy footballers. I'll bring them up because they're the first ones that show up on my ranks. Mike Wright from the fantasy footballers has him on at 13th ranked. His co-host from the very same show, Jason Moore, ranks him 34th. So within the same show, same podcast, you have 13th and 34th. I think that's a pretty polarizing guy right there. That's crazy. So I don't know. I don't even know. What do you think about Chris Carson? Is it just like it's penny, right?
Yeah,
just don't want the risk.
Yeah, I mean, really, that's what it comes down to. Because every time, and he got a large workload last year. It's not like we got to see everything that he could do, and he was very good. I mean, he was averaging, but especially with the last 4 weeks that he played, he was averaging over 20 carries. He maxed out at 32 attempts in one game. Yeah, he was just solid across the board, but it was a big price tag to get Penny.
They're not going to give up on him yet.
Right, and Chris Carson is not an old back by any means. He's only 24. So what are you going to do? And I don't know. I feel like there was a lot of injuries in that backfield, and and this is probably why I rank him around, more in the early 20s, or, maybe he's creeping up, maybe 20 or something like that. That I feel like it's going to be, I don't know. It seems to me that a group mentality, the hot hand kind of, situation, it just feels like at some point it's going to turn into that. Because I felt like when one wasn't hurt, then the other guy got it and he did well. And I think that whatever back is in there is going to do fine. So I don't know. I haven't seen anything to think Chris Carson is a above average talent. I think he's a good running back and he did the most with his carries, but yeah. I don't know. It's a tough one. And that's why it's so polarizing is I don't think people really know what to think of him.
No, some are in love with him, but
Yeah. Well, if you look at those numbers, I if it wasn't for Penny and if it wasn't for the fact that other running backs did well there, I would probably give him a little more credit.
So how about your fourth player?
Fourth. I went with Darius Guice.
Okay.
So, and we all know why in this situation is because we truly don't know what this guy is going to be. He was incredibly hyped coming into it. I thought he was going to do very well, behind that Washington line. I thought, and then AP came in and he was very productive for the games that he played. AP is still there. Guice is there. Supposedly he's going to be healthy. Obviously he blew out his knee last year. You don't know how that's going to affect him. That offense kind of looks like it's going to be in flux because you're not exactly sure. Will Haskins eventually take over? Will he not? Who is going to be the top wide receivers? There's a lot of question marks in that team in general.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know personally. I don't know if anyone else knows, and I think everyone is hedging their bets because of that uncertainty. Even though they know he is the future, but is this year going to be? I
mean, he got drafted at the end of the second round because he fell so much. Because I don't know why. We still don't whatever.
Right. I think it was. Yeah. Exactly.
But are we sure that he's just going to pass Adrian Peterson? Adrian Peterson said he could run for 2,000 yards this year.
Well, yeah.
And you know what? I can't second guess the guy. I bet you can. If they give you the opportunity, sure.
Yeah, I don't think it's smart to ever doubt him.
I mean, I want Guice to work because I drafted him number 1 in our Dynasty League last year. I want him to work. I don't know. I just don't know. And I guess that's why he's good for this.
Yeah, exactly. That's why he's good for polarizing.
I don't know, and no one really knows.
Because are you going to draft him? Like someone's going to draft him as if he is the number 1 back there.
That's where I cannot draft Guice whatsoever because preseason is going to show us little. I mean, I guess preseason could work slightly with if Guice looks great, and that would help us out. We're not going to see anything from Peterson.
Yeah,
it's all Guice. If he really, really looks good. So
yeah, but even that, I mean, how many times have we been fooled by that? I mean, not beating the dead horse with Detroit, but what about Abdullah?
Yeah. Hell yeah, he looked good.
Amir Abdullah looked amazing in the preseason, and then he just never could put it together, stay healthy. It could be the same thing with Guice, and you're probably playing against a lot of the time. He'll be playing against the second, third, level guys that are trying to make the team. He could look really good, and maybe his knee is not fully back. There's so many question marks. But anyway, that's why he's polarizing.
But this is also what can win seasons for you because if he is the guy, Peterson gets hurt. Peterson could get hurt very easily. All of a sudden, Guice is what we thought he could be. Man, you got a league-winning guy there. So, hey, a lot of these guys we're talking about can win you stuff. Jones I like because Jones is, so far we've talked about, Jones you don't have to pay a price for him. Carson and Guice both, you're paying a little bit of a price for a guy that might not be the guy. I hate that so much. It just freaks me out. I don't like that risk. I don't like it. For the most part. I do have some exceptions, but
and remember, he came in with a very talented group of running backs, and a lot of people said he was number 2. They thought that behind Barkley, this guy was the second most talented player.
Yeah, he just fell in the draft for some reason, and who knows why. It's just whatever. All right, I'll go with my 4th guy on my list, going 5-1, and I put Leonard Fournette. And
I did not, but I like that one.
Yeah, and he's interesting. He's ranked as high as 9th, as low as 24th. His stock has definitely dropped off from where we had him last year. Last year, he's one of the top guys. We thought he was going to be amazing. And he got hurt, obviously, but he only had a 3.3 yards per carry the whole season. Like, are we just sure he's not Trent Richardson? I mean...
Ouch.
I'm telling you, look at the numbers. The numbers are they're not good. They're not good. I'll say that. I mean, Trent Richardson, I should pull up Trent Richardson's numbers and see what he actually did. So Trent Richardson, in his rookie year, he had 3.6 yards per carry. In his second year, he had 3 yards per carry. In his final year, he had 3.3. So that 3.3, it's very Trent Richardson-like. It's very much Trent Richardson. I mean, he only had 3.9 his rookie year.
Yeah, it's not what you're looking for, definitely. But
it's very similar.
It is. It's kind of their MO too, though.
Blake Bortles was his quarterback.
Right.
There was no respect there.
No respect. And also they had a great defense, so they were controlling the clock. They were just, using him as a battering ram. Yeah. The question is that going to change? Yeah, I really do think he has the talent. I think he's a very talented player.
I think so too, and I like the value now. I like where you're getting him. If he's right now he's ranked 15th currently. ADP. So yeah, he's the 14th. He's the 14th running back going off the board.
Well, here's my question. First year as a rookie, he missed 3 games. Right. Last year he missed half the season.
It's worrisome.
I mean, injuries alone have got to freak you out.
They do a little bit. That's why I like if you get him if he falls enough where you could get him in the 3rd. I love it. Beginning of the 3rd, it's about all he'd fall to. But you can get him in the beginning of the 3rd-ish. I like it. But it depends. Some drafts he's going to go higher. Some he's going to go lower. With the running backs in that middle tier, you never know who people are going to like. Like right now in the consensus, Marlon Mack's up to 13th. But there's going to be drafts where Marlon Mack's going to go behind all these guys that he's actually ahead of here. Like Marlon Mack's 13th, Damian Williams is 14th, then you got Fournette. Wow, that's crazy. Marlon Mack's really, though that offseason talk of him being like the workhorse is really driving his rank up. I mean, just don't listen to coach speak in the offseason. Who cares?
Yeah.
Wait till it actually happens.
I do have to say, though, he did look good.
He does.
When he played last year.
I loved him his rookie year, too. Just like saw the flashes of him being a really good player.
And that offense should be amazing. So there is a lot to like there.
Yeah, but Fournette, he's just one that I don't know what to think. Over that same stat here. So over last season, weeks 9 through 17, I only took players that had to play at least 5 games over that span, and I ranked them in points per game. Fournette was 9th, but that's because of the touchdowns. So if you still think he's going to get the touchdowns, he's going to be good no matter what the yards per carry is. Because yards per carry, yeah, it's not. If they used him differently, it would be a lot better. Obviously, he's short. He was doing short yardage stuff that really just kind of screws up the stat. But he's pretty solid actually. I like the value you're going to get him at, and if he's healthy and has a quarterback that can actually make the defense, have to respect it. But I'm not 100% sure they do.
I was going to say, do you think that?
I'm not 100% sure. A lot of people are a lot more sold on Foles than I am. I'm not. I mean, we'll see about Foles. So Fournette, though, interesting. People love him. People hate him, and that's why he's on the list. So, all right. So we've gone through our 5th and then 4th. Now your 3rd player on your list.
My 3rd, and we're about to hit 2 guys for me that I've talked about at length in other times, and they just happen to be polarizing players as well, so I thought I'd bring him up again. But here is a guy that, and I understand why, Geronimo Allison. So right now, he's kind of up in the air, right? You know Devontae Adams is going to be very good in Green Bay. Him and Aaron Rodgers have a great rapport. They've done it year in, year out. Who is going to be that number 2 wide receiver? Who's going to be that number 2 option for Aaron Rodgers? Whoever gets it is going to be very good. The question is, will it be Geronimo Allison? He was supposed to be the guy last year. It didn't work out. He got injured, whatever happened. All right. But he's right back in that same spot. He should be the number 2. But on top of that, you have a new head coach. So as I was doing more and more reading about this, I do have to bring this up because I thought this was a very, very good point. And to give him credit, who is this? A Zach Cruz. He wrote a little blurb about Geronimo Allison and the different wide receivers going out for it. But LaFleur, who is the head coach now, how he uses wide receivers is the big idea behind this, right? And you kind of saw this in the past. And anywhere he's been offensive coordinator or head coach, they start comparing to how he uses that and how he uses a slot receiver, which is really very interesting because obviously you had Cobb. He was kind of the Green Bay slot receiver. He's small, he's shifty. That's kind of where the NFL goes. LaFleur is a very different take on it. And Sanu, who was 6'2", ran a 4.67. Cup, who was 6'2", ran a 4.62. And Sharp, who was 6'2", and ran a 4.55. Were all the slot receivers, right? And you're kind of thinking, oh my gosh, he's right. When you point out a kind of a trend like that, you have to think about it. And Allison is right along with those guys. He's 6'3", 4.67. They say he's catching on a lot. Personally, I think that he is worth the risk, but his numbers are all over the board, and for good reason, right? So right now he's averaging the 46th wide receiver. His standard deviation is 11.4. So it just shows you that no one really knows even where to rank him, let alone where to draft him. So I find him very, very intriguing, and I thought that was great to share because very rarely do I come across something where they make such a solid point.
Well, how do you like the headline of Marquez Valdez-Scantling impressing staff going into Packers minicamp? Yeah,
well, first of all, there's you can have more than two mouths to feed, so that's fine. But I
people
think
don't. Yeah, people for some reason, that's why I like Allison for this. Is because again, people they think it's all or nothing. It has to be one or the other. They can't coexist.
No, and Aaron Rodgers has always been good with. He can sustain 3 wide receivers. He's always had a very difficult time making a tight end a superstar or a running back along with him being very, very good. But 3 wide receivers, if it's Aaron Rodgers being Aaron Rodgers, shouldn't be an issue. And also, one of those guys has to come out of it, right? And I mean, it might as well be
somebody
him.
Has to,
right? Because they drafted a handful of young wide receivers, and they're kind of waiting for one to kind of take the reins. So, and also, like we say, that's coach speak, right? Like how well he's doing. Same thing with Allison. Obviously picking up. He's smart, whatever.
Well, shoot, Devontae Parker's impressing right now.
He always, they always impresses, right? And then when it comes to playing the game,
trying not to buy into it.
I can't do it. On principle.
All those young receivers from the last few years that haven't quite broken out. I just, for some reason, I always like them. I'm in love with all of them. Like, this will be the year, right? This will be the year.
The problem with him is his value will always be higher than it should be.
Yeah, it will.
But anyway, so that's why Geronimo Allison makes my list. And for good, I think he does have an uphill battle, but very, very interesting. So even if he doesn't get the number 2, if he is in that slot position, I think that could be a windfall. And I love what they were talking about with LaFleur and a new head coach and what that could possibly mean for him.
So I'll go to my number 3. It's Sony Michel. So he's ranked 19th right now consensus, as high as 11th, as low as 50th. That's a little nuts.
I don't understand that one at all.
But I'm really, I slightly worry about Michel only because he's not, I mean, he's still a little injured right now. I mean, that might not mean anything, but that's with the Patriots, though, you just never know. If this guy is injured, and shoot, who knows, maybe Damian Harris impresses or something. It's not like they're going to, completely. They could use him. It makes it interesting with Michel. That's why I see him as 50th. A little nuts. That's nuts.
That's
but
way too low.
I do see him, but he's quite often in the back end of the 20s towards 30. Mm-hmm. Which still, that means as high as 11th. Some people really like this guy and think he's a top running back, or as low as RB3, bottom end RB3. That's where he's going.
If I can get him as RB3, I'll take him all day.
That's it. There's the one. There's two guys that are a little crazy on the ranks here, and he's way lower. Let's see here. There's he's ranked 50th, obviously, and he's 46th by Heath Cummings from CBS. So those two went way low on him, but he's ranked in the 30s, low 20s for a lot of people. And John Paulson, who's a really pretty accurate ranker year after year, ranks him 27th. I mean, there's a lot. Jamie Eisenberg, 24th. Smitty, who we're in a league with, that the Fowlers vs. Fowlers League on Instagram, has him 27th. I feel like it's slightly surprising to you, seeing Sony Michel that low.
Oh, without a doubt. That's very surprising to me. I mean, you look at his numbers from last year, and he was an incredibly solid running back, and he even did better in the playoffs. And usually I wouldn't take that into too much account. Because you've seen Derrick Henry do this. Obviously, we talked about like Edelman, how he always comes out in the playoffs and he actually does better than regular season. But Sony Michel was a rookie, so he was still getting his feet under him. He was still learning the offense. He was still proving himself. And the fact that he could put up almost 1,000 yards and 6 touchdowns in 13 games with the Patriots in the regular season, and then he really dominated in the playoffs. I just can't imagine. I don't know. I can't imagine a world where he loses his spot, or I'm not saying that they're not going to use other people, but I think there is plenty of room for him to do what he does so well, especially with Tom Brady, saving him for the playoffs, which is what you want to do.
I hesitate on him though. I'm hesitating.
What, this is my question. Is there so many question marks that you can't figure out why, or because which part of it scares you? Because it wasn't his production last year. Do you really think that someone else is going to take his spot? What about it actually scares you? Because I think that is so. It comes down to more group mentality, I think, on this one.
And we think his numbers were good, but okay. Again, I put this, maybe letting myself get too blinded by this. Weeks 9 through 17, points per game. He was 27th in points per game, standard scoring, weeks 9 through 17. That's it. 27th. He was lower than James White in standard. That's surprising to you. I know it is.
I want to look it up.
I see
actually.
that. It is an accurate stat. I'm not making this up.
Hold it. In the last
weeks 9 through 17. So the second half of last season, he played.
The last game he played was 13 in week 13. So, or is that rank? I'm sorry. Nope. He didn't play week 17, but you're right. Yeah. He did play.
So he played over that span. Let's see. Where's my stat here again? He played in 7 of those games. 7 of those 8 games. James White averaged 9.4 per game in those standard. Sony Michel averaged 9.3. So players better than Sony Michel, points per game, standard scoring, over the last half of the season were James White, Doug Martin, Gus Edwards, Matt Breida, Lamar Miller. All better than Sony Michel. He beat out Peyton Barber by 1 spot. He beat out Darren Sproles by only 5.
I get you, but even that,
it's a little bit surprising to hear that.
And he didn't play in week 17 too, so that might have cost him a lot. But you think about that too, and so he ranked in his bad chunk of games, which are definitely important, obviously, to take into account. But within that, he ranked 27th, and right now he is going, possibly after that already. So even in his worst area, which he only scored 1 touchdown in those games as well, and it was against Buffalo when he went off for 116 yards and 1 touchdown. I understand the hesitation, but at the same time, I look at the numbers and I look at how many attempts he did get, his overall, what he was able to do, especially the yards per average, where he did have a few games were just bad, but he was averaging 4.5 yards a carry, 6 touchdowns.
Still not better than Gus Edwards.
It's very true. But yeah, I think maybe a little hesitation, but no, I'm not there with you. I like him. I like him a lot.
All right, who's your number 2?
Number 2 is going to be the other guy that I talk about quite a bit, but James Washington, another player. And this one surprises me a little bit more about the wide range because he is more locked in than, say, Geronimo Allison is. And his standard deviation is still off the charts. And people are picking him way after the fact. He's still slotted in to be the number 2 wide receiver. Obviously, we know that the Steelers can give him a ton of, receptions. I mean, there's so much to go around because Antonio Brown leaving, and obviously James Conner, is he the equivalent to Le'Veon Bell?
I hear a lot of Dante Moncrief chatter.
Yeah, okay. First of all,
we've heard about. Big fan of Dante Moncrief.
Yeah, because he's also been in the league for what, 20 years now.
It starts to get to the point where you just got to do it.
Yeah, so
it's not happening.
So even if he was number 3, so maybe, and he didn't show a whole lot last year. I completely understand that. But with the offense that he's in, and his ability he's shown at least in college, which he won best wide receiver 2 years ago. It wasn't that long ago. He needs, I don't know. I think he deserves a little more respect than he's getting. And right now his numbers are all over the board. He's averaging the 51st wide receiver taking. His standard deviation is 14.7, which is really off the charts. And people are even taking him 5 spots past where he is ranked currently, which is, pretty incredible considering he could be a major contributor to that offense.
6 hours ago, the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette headline, "Standout Steeler of the Spring, it might be receiver Dante Moncrief."
Yeah, give me a break.
So we got 2 articles that are going against your number 2 receivers who you like and praising the number 3 receiver. Yeah, just in the last day.
I was going to say, how many times have we seen this?
Again,
every year. Did they say the same thing about Moncrief last year when Jacksonville?
They said it probably forever about Moncrief.
It's like he goes to every place for 1 year and then they get rid of him.
This is because Roethlisberger's the one who said it's hard to pick one, but I'd probably go with Dante Moncrief just because he's new in response to who stood out among skill position players. Love the not even preseason training camp. It's just mini camp, and we're hearing this stuff. So, all right, I'll go with my number 2. I went with Derrick Henry, number 2. I've been starting to come around a little bit. I don't know why, and I'm trying to stop myself here.
We literally just had a whole thing about bust potential,
and after that, I started coming around. So, not really, but I'm starting. I see where the potential is if he was able to put it together. But he's ranked as high as 8th. Some people really love this guy and think he's a top 10 back. As low as 31st. He's another one of these ones that he's just so out there. So his consensus rank is 16th. Man, you don't buy it, do you?
No, I don't. I mean, yes, obviously it's very easy to see why people get so excited. But first of all, I can't get excited. It should have been last year if he was going to do something major, right? I don't know. I get it, but he's not a pass catching back, so that definitely hurts him. Titans cannot move the ball to save their life, and if they want to give him 20, 30 carries a game, I'm all about it. But they should have been doing that last year, and they didn't. I don't see what changes. And he did it 2 years ago when in the playoffs he ran all over a team, and then people were like, "Oh, he's going to do it. He's going to do it." And last year, once again, didn't do it. And then at the end of the year, the final 2-3 games, they gave him a ton of carries. He showed out. A couple of them were against teams that were already out of the playoffs.
Oh, maybe.
So yeah, I mean, so no, I don't buy it. I think if I got him, there's enough upside where I wouldn't be devastated. But I have a feeling that a lot of people, he'll just be taken before I'm willing to take him. That's what it comes down to.
So my favorite weeks 9 through 17 stat has Derrick Henry as the 6th best running back over the last half of the season, only behind Christian McCaffrey, Ezekiel Elliott, Saquon Barkley, Todd Gurley, Alvin Kamara, and then Derrick Henry. He's one of them.
Yeah. And
maybe took away that one game.
Yeah, I was going to say, he has one game against Jacksonville. He had 238 yards with 4 touchdowns.
So if he didn't have that game, he's going to probably be below 1,000 yards for the season, so it looks a lot worse. The touchdowns aren't there.
Well, there was 2 games, right? And they were at the end of the season when Titans were, they were struggling. Going against Jacksonville, which, feather in your cap, good for you. Usually their defense shows up. Then against New York Giants, which I give you no credit for because they were a hot mess last year. And he got 17 carries against Jacksonville, and he turned that into all that yards and 4 touchdowns. Very next game, you give him 33 carries, and he got 170 with 2. You take out those games, and his numbers do not look impressive.
Again, I guess it all depends on where you're getting him, and then it becomes interesting. So think about this. Would you like him in this spot? The other day I did a 10-team mock draft. I picked up I went DeAndre Hopkins first round. I've been doing a lot of wide receiver stuff early on. I went DeAndre Hopkins first round. I went Odell second round. I've done that combo a lot. I've done this whole group of plays. So I went Hopkins, Odell, Aaron Jones, Nick Chubb, Derrick Henry was my flex. That one, like that, right?
Yeah, I don't hate that.
That's good.
Yeah, I mean, you're using if he's your number 3.
Yeah,
I'm actually kind of impressed by that.
That's a good little roster right there, wasn't it? And then my quarterback was Andrew Luck in that one, and David Njoku's my tight end in every league. That was I don't know how I pulled that off. It's just, I guess just 10 teams, but if Derrick Henry's your flex, yeah, you love it.
I just can't imagine. I mean, it's pretty incredible really too because you got 2 wide receivers along with that. But I mean, right now he's ranked 16th. Average draft position is 18th about.
As a running back, yeah.
Right, as a running back. So you start looking at that too, and I mean...
What's the overall, what he sees? He's actually 34th ADP for overall, so that puts you... It puts you at the end of the... Well, it's still only the third if you're in 12-team, but if you're in 10-team, it's 4th. And I was in a 10-team. I got him the first pick of the 5th.
Right, and you got him as your 3rd running back.
Yeah,
which
if he fell, yeah.
I mean, yes, then there I do like him. Because I think he has enough of a ceiling where you're kind of like, okay,
yep,
great.
But but again, that's why people don't know what to do with him because he could make or break your season. It's one of those. If you actually risk him, if you get him the 3rd, don't like it.
I mean, can you imagine it? Because I know some people are going to fall in love with him because
they are. That's why they're falling in love with him.
Right. I mean, you just look at him. First of all, you just look at him. He's a beast. I mean, 6'3", 250 pounds almost, and the guy straight speed, very good. He's a very fast guy. He's just an unbelievable athlete. But can you imagine a world where you fall in love with him and you think that he's going to be your number 1 running back?
There's a couple people that have thought this.
Man, that is very scary for me.
Scott Pianowski from Yahoo Sports has him as the 10th best running back. That's an RB1.
Yeah, I can't get behind that. Even as a running back too, depending on where you're drafting, obviously, it scares me. He could completely disappear.
All right, we're to number 1. Number 1 polarizing.
Okay,
player.
I think we both got the same person.
Todd Gurley.
Oh no,
I went Todd Gurley.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
I went Sammy.
I didn't do it.
Every year,
I didn't do it.
He shows up on my list, but this year it's very interesting.
I went Gurley because I put Sammy.
Yeah. Actually, I mean, it makes total sense. I didn't put Gurley because I was just sick of talking about him so much. But go ahead, please.
Sammy is on my list as my 6th. He's my 6th, Sammy Watkins.
Oh, look at that.
That's the Sammy Watkins list. I'll talk about Sammy quick too. Actually, I'll let you talk about Sammy. I'll talk about Todd Gurley. You know what? I have a confession to make. I love Todd Gurley. I love him. I'm in love with Todd Gurley.
I think we knew that.
I'm becoming more in love with him the further he falls down the ADP. The more people reject him and just degrade him and say how terrible of a player he is. And now his arthritis is just the end of everything. I like him more. And I can't wait for the comeback story. The comeback story of the guy who finished first last year.
The last
2 years.
2 years.
The comeback story of the last 2 years, number 1 running back. Just because he's going to drop a few carries.
Yeah. What is he coming back from? That's my question. But anyway, I 100% agree with this. And I was already ready to, as other people have said, die on this hill, right? Where you take him as even the 6th running back and people were like, that's crazy. And, I don't think that's crazy. I really don't. I haven't seen anything that would lead me to believe differently. And if I did, I would probably, I would rank it that way. When it keeps going and this is getting out of control and I can get him in the 2nd round, holy hell. Yeah. I mean, that is the dream right there.
I honestly, truly believe if you get Todd Gurley in the 2nd round, I'm not going to say you're going to win your title, but you are in the playoffs. And then we'll see how it happens after that. But you will be in the playoffs if you get Todd Gurley in the 2nd round. I know this is This seems crazy talk for some people right now. You hear other podcasts, you hear other writers, they are completely against this, and they are really worried about that knee. And yeah, you know what? I get it. It's a concern. Todd Gurley doesn't think it's a concern, but he's going to say that. Obviously, he just said earlier today, the knee on his knee, he says it's a small problem. It's just a small problem. He says I had bigger problems to worry about coming out of college after his ACL. It's true, and yes, this is what people say is, I get so annoyed at this about the playoffs. And if he was okay, why did they play CJ Anderson over him? Well, he wasn't okay. Obviously, the wear and tear of the year had made it so he couldn't go. It just did. They tried it. He did well when he came back, and then it just couldn't go. And yes, it is because of the knee. They need to better manage it now in the offseason, which I think they're doing. Better manage it during the season, which does mean, yes, he is going to get less carries. There's going to be times where Todd Gurley is going to have full series where he's going to be off. And that's going to really annoy you. It's really going to annoy you. But you know what? He's going to be that goal line back. No matter what. Todd Gurley is always, I think, going to be in on the goal line. And that's what gave him as much value as he had last year. The yards are great, but the yards aren't spectacular. I mean, what? 1251? That's fine. But that's not... He didn't have that many more yards than Chris Carson. The yards aren't what makes Todd Gurley Todd Gurley. The touchdowns are what makes Todd Gurley Todd Gurley. And those touchdowns are still going to be there. He can drop to 200 carries. He could only maybe get 1,000 yards. Maybe even 950. You know what? The touchdowns are still going to be like, if he gets 15 touchdowns, this guy was so good. He's still going to be top 5. I think he's still going to be top 5. And you're going to get him in the second round? Some people are saying not to draft him until the third. It's going to be, I don't see many leagues where that's actually going to happen because someone's going to take the bait. They want Todd Gurley. Man, I know, yes, people think I've seen this comment so many times that people think we are just downplaying this arthritis so much. We're just downplaying it. You know, not down. I think everyone's just so overreacting to it.
First of all, arthritis is a long-term deal,
and it's more of a pain management type deal too. Yeah. And it's like it's not going to be comfortable for him. And obviously, at the end of last year, it was too much for him. It really was.
Yeah,
I think they're going to be a lot smarter about it this year. And yeah, this is just an hour ago. McVay said this article came out. He says, talking to Todd, he looks really good. He feels really good. I think the plan that we set out a few months back has been followed exactly the way that we wanted it to get done. And now it says, let's see, he's going to be part of he's going to be part of training camp drills. They're doing it right. They know what they have to do. Todd Gurley.
Yeah, and and also people are talking like the Rams aren't trying to win the Super Bowl, right? Like you're not reloading. I mean, this is a young team. You kind of have to win now. You have all the pieces in place, and Gurley is a huge piece of that. You're going to have to use him. And also, yeah, I mean, people freak out about the playoffs because, he didn't really play all that much in the Super Bowl.
They didn't manage him.
First of all, in week 1 of the playoffs, when he played against Dallas, he had 16 attempts. He had 115 yards and a touchdown. He was averaging 7.7 over 7 yards a carry. And then, the next 2 games, first of all, they didn't need him. And the other one, I mean, they still won. He still had a touchdown, even though he only had 4 attempts.
Well, and they were.
So yeah, they did manage his workload. Don't get me wrong.
They didn't once they realized it was an issue at the end of the year. They said we're not going to they weren't going to screw up their long-term investment because you had a fresh CJ Anderson out there, and you know what? He wasn't Todd Gurley, but he was fresh. That's a big deal at the end of the year.
And you looked at
they didn't need to ruin because they wanted to win the Super Bowl last year, but they're going to have Todd Gurley for years. They didn't want to screw that up. So.
And he still got 10 attempts. It's not like he didn't play. And when he was out there, he looked better than he was feeling, obviously. And that was against obviously a very, very good team.
People are already freaking out that he's not going to play in the preseason. I've heard that.
Good, you shouldn't.
He didn't play in the preseason last year.
Yeah.
It's nothing new.
First of all, any primetime player should not play. I mean, a quarterback should play maybe, a couple halves or something in order to just loosen up.
Todd Gurley doesn't need to play. Zeke Elliott only needs to run the ball like 4 times. Yeah, that's it.
He should. First of all, any of the top wide running backs, top wide receivers, I would not risk it. Why in the world would you do that?
All right. enough. I've talked about Todd Gurley.
So
Sammy
anyway.
Watkins. My Sammy Watkins list ends with Sammy Watkins number 1. I didn't put him 1, but he is basically number 1. He's number 0.
Yeah, and I think he is a polarizing player.
He is
don't
very
get me
much
wrong.
so.
But because of the situation with Tyreek Hill, and he should even be more polarizing. And I think he will turn into that as we get closer to the season.
No one knows what to do with Tyreek Hill. Now that they said the criminal case is dropped, I still think he's going to be suspended. How is he
Something's
not?
got to happen to
if
him.
If they suspended Zeke, I mean, come on. 6 games, they suspended Zeke. They have to. Minimum of 6 games for Tyreek, if not more. But Sammy.
Yeah, and also the fact that they released Hunt.
Yeah.
I mean,
I can't
it's
imagine. It's an interesting thing that they're keeping.
Yeah, there would be some real hypocrisy. But either way.
Sammy, though,
if he's not there, if he's not there, and this is why it's so polarizing, right? If Hill is not there, Sammy Watkins is the number 1 wide receiver on the best offense in the NFL. And even if he is there, he's the number 2. The question is, can he stay healthy? And even last year, he only got to play in 10 games, 40 receptions, over 500 yards, 3 touchdowns. Still not the craziest.
He's been a disappointment.
Yeah, everywhere he's gone. But he's always had the talent. It always flashes. If it wasn't for his nagging injuries, his numbers would be a lot better than they are.
Yeah, I mean, because those numbers, 40 for 519, over 10 games, they're not good, but it could be a lot worse. I think, man, it just depends. If Tyreek Hill's gone, Pat Mahomes is too good to not every ball can go to Travis Kelce.
No.
And Damian Williams, they can't catch everything. And if Damian Williams is the guy at running back, he's not really a workhorse. I don't see he's going to be quite a workhorse. So, but Sammy is ranked as high as 12th, as low as 48th. That's why, but he always is. That's always the Sammy Watkins thing. I've always been too high on Sammy Watkins. He's always burned me every year. I've drafted him I don't know how many times, and I might do it again.
Yeah, and I'll be honest.
It's stupid. I shouldn't do it, but
I have a take on the majority of players that we talked about, right? I either hate or love them.
Yeah.
Like, I am on one of these sides of the polarization. But Watkins, I can't get a handle on, mostly because he's burned me before. But the truth is, he is in one of the best positions to have a breakout year that any wide receiver has ever had. And he should be kind of that lottery ticket people get. And I still can't find myself reaching for him. So I just fall in that middle area where I feel like a lot of people are. I don't know. So are you, if he came up, are you waiting on him? Are you done with him? Or would you actually take a shot on him if you don't like, if the snake draft comes to you and you just don't like the other people?
Okay, because where he usually goes in a draft, I don't love the players around him. I never like that range of wide receivers for some reason. It's currently, because currently he's, I like where he's going. He's going as he's actually going as the 27th wide receiver currently. So he's going as the 27th wide receiver. That puts him just ahead of DJ Moore, Alshon Jeffrey, Robbie Anderson, Corey Davis. Yeah, I want Sammy Watkins. If I need a wide receiver, I want Sammy Watkins there. Because I like DJ Moore, but he hasn't really shown it yet. Alshon, I'm not an Alshon guy. I think Alshon's fine, but his best days are behind him. And Robbie Anderson, he could be good. Who knows? Corey Davis hasn't done it. All these guys are question marks. Everybody here that Sammy Watkins goes around is a question mark. So give me Sammy Watkins in the Chiefs offense. I'll just take that chance. This doesn't make or break your season here. I mean, it could make it if it could make it if Sammy's great. He could be really good, but you're not going to lose your season if you draft Sammy Watkins and he busts. Because he's not even really a bust. He's just Sammy Watkins then.
Right. He's just injury prone. So I want to play this game, actually. Yeah. I'm going to name a few guys, and I want to know if you would take Sammy over them if those were the two options.
Yep.
Julian Edelman.
I think I want Julian Edelman.
All right. And currently he's going as the 18th wide receiver.
I think I want Julian Edelman. I think I do like that safety for
him.
Right.
Tyler Lockett.
I think people are going to really hate me for this, but I think I'm going to go Lockett. I've gone towards the Lockett side, but I want to say Sammy so much, but I think Lockett. I think I need to go Lockett there. I'd be smart.
All right. He's currently going as the 24th wide receiver. Chris Godwin.
Sammy. I like Chris Godwin, but I almost think the Chris Godwin hype has kind of gone a little nuts.
Right. Calvin Ridley.
I think I'd go Ridley. I think there's some potential there.
Okay. Those are some of the guys that are going. All of them are going about at least 5 spots ahead of Sammy. But that is where the conversation is, though. Mm-hmm. Like, how much are you willing to risk?
See, I'm not going to risk a lot there with him, but I'm going to take him over the guys that are below. That's pretty much where it is. I like where he's at. I think he's at a good spot. And there's a couple guys.
Here's one, Robert Woods. I'll put you on the spot.
I think I have to go Robert Woods. As much as I don't necessarily.
He's going 17th in the wide receiver range.
Because I almost have to go him and maybe I'll trade him for Sammy and something.
Right, because you think his value overall is, yeah.
Other people like Robert Woods. I just haven't bought into him. Even though I should. I mean, he had a very good year. I know I don't. People don't like that. People don't like that we don't like Robert Woods. I've noticed that. But
yeah, he was good. I mean, he was good, but I'm not excited by the guy.
I need to see more. He needs to show it to me again. And then I'll believe it. Show it to me when you have a full season of Brandon Cooks and Cooper Kupp there. Then I'll believe it.
And a full season of Todd Gurley.
Oh, yeah. Todd Gurley. All right. I think that's going to do it for polarizing players. We'll be back next week. I think maybe we'll talk safe players next week. How about that? We'll talk about the guys that we just know. Not necessarily the top guys. Obviously, the top guys are safe, typically. We'll talk about safe guys. You just draft this guy. You know you're just plugged in for points.
Lock and load.
You might not get the, running back 1 or wide receiver 1, but you're going to be really set as on your team, and you got guaranteed points. So we'll talk about that next week. Talk to you guys then.